mind. When you're into your intellect, when you're stuck in your intellect, you are a non-stop suffering human being.
Suffering is not inevitable, suffering is self-created.
This moment, you can make anything out of yourself. You can make joy out of yourself, you can make suffering out of yourself.
So we need to understand this. People are coming to conclusions by looking at certain limitations. For example, the psychiatry and other things. People like Freud, they've come to many conclusions about humanity which are utterly nonsensical. It is just that because they studied only sick people, they never got to study a Buddha, isn't it? They studied only mentally sick people. With that, they're making conclusions about whole humanity. It's not so. Now, if you can create suffering, you can also create something else, isn't it? Do you see? Who you are, whatever you may think you are right now, your personality, your identifications, all these things are fine. But fundamentally, if you're really alert and listening to me, you cannot sit here as a man or a woman. You can only sit here as a certain life energy, isn't it? Yes? If you're aware, I'm a man, I'm a woman, that means you're not here totally. Do you see your big identities just fall off so easily? If you don't pay attention to it, they fall off. If you get focused on something else, they fall off. So people are trying to experience this in many ways, playing a game, jumping off a mountain, singing a song, dancing, doing this, falling in love with somebody. These are all different ways that people are trying to get involved in something to such a point that they can forget all the other nonsense that they have created. Yes? But none of these things can you sustain for 24 hours of the day. Now, we are exploring a technology where you don't have to do anything and still be that way. Because if a certain state of being is related to a certain activity, nobody can maintain that activity 24 hours of the day, isn't it? Any kind of activity. Whether it is playing or singing or dancing or music or love or meditation, you cannot manage it for 24 hours of the day. It's not possible, not practical, isn't it? So that means, if you can create something for one moment, so you're able to create a certain sense of freedom from suffering for one moment. If you create one moment, can't you create one more moment? Can't you create one more? One more and one more and one more? That's the way you create your life. Fortunately, moments don't come at you in bunches, they're coming only one at a time, isn't it? Are they coming in bunches? Only one at a time. If you know how to make this moment blissful, you can live blissfully, isn't it? Now, suffering, please look at it and see, people are capable of suffering just about anything. Is it so? People are suffering their well-being, people are suffering their illness, people are suffering loneliness, people are suffering togetherness. Is it so? People are suffering poverty, people are suffering affluence, is it so? People are suffering discomfort, people are suffering comfort, is it so? So they are capable of suffering anything. So obviously, they are creating suffering. Yes? If you look at yourself, this life energy which you call as myself sometimes has been very blissful. Has it been joyful and blissful at certain times? Sometimes it's been absolute turmoil, sometimes peaceful, sometimes agony, sometimes ecstasy. Has it gone through all this? So it is capable of finding all these various expressions. So if it is capable of all this, if only if you had little mastery over your life energies, what would you instruct your life energies to be? Misery or joy? Sure. So people who have no control over their systems, they're talking suffering is inevitable. No, suffering is not inevitable. Suffering is self-created. If you are aware, if you take your body into control, if you just have little mastery over your body, at least 15 to 25, 30% of your life and destiny will be in your hands. Please see. Just your body, physical mastery. Is it so? If you take your mind into your control, if you have mastery over your mind, 40 to 60% of your life will be in your control. If you take your life energies into your control, 100% of your destiny will be in your control. The very way you live and the very way you die will be decided by you.
I know the Eastern minds have also absorbed this in a horribly distorted way, but right now if you told your friend or your relative, I'm going to the ashram for 3 days, they would become very kind towards you and ask, why, what went wrong? Something must be wrong with your life. You're going to the ashram to heal a wound, to solace yourself. Something must be really wrong with your life, or you must be too old for life. Otherwise, why would you go to an ashram? So this has crept into this culture also. Essentially, if you're alive only in parts, or if you're partially alive, to be partially alive is a terrible torture. Many of you have been through these science classes. I'm sure you opened up frogs and cockroaches, did you? They were nice, lively beings, but you opened them up because you wanted to find their heart and liver and kidney. Half alive, being half alive is torture. Have you seen this? Always being half alive is torture. This is the torture that a large segment of humanity is going through right now because they're half alive. Only one part of them has become alive, only their physicality and mentality has become alive. The rest of it is yet to become alive. Half-alive people will suffer everything. They will suffer ignorance, they will suffer education, they will suffer poverty, they will suffer affluence, they will suffer being alone, they will suffer being in a relationship. If they are not married, they suffer. If they're married, if they don't have children, they suffer that. As if children, if they are there, they can come and bite you. They do. No children, what are you suffering? But that also they suffer. Just show me one thing that human beings are not suffering right now. Just show me one aspect of life that human beings are not suffering right now. They're suffering just about anything, not just life. They're even suffering death before it happens. That which is and that which is not, everything they suffer. You are not suffering loneliness, you are not suffering company, you are not suffering money, you are not suffering poverty. What you're suffering is, you're half alive. You're desperately trying to make yourself fully alive through money, through drink, through sex, through going on a trek, coming to the ashram. In so many ways, you're somehow trying to make yourself fully alive, which is yet to happen fully. Here and there you feel a burst of aliveness, but again it ebbs down. So, when people are constantly half alive, pleasure becomes an important part of your life, very important part of your life. Without it, you cannot exist. Pleasure becomes paramount in your life when you're only half alive. when physicality is all that you know, pleasure becomes of immense importance in your life. If you become fully alive, you will become so blissful, joyful, ecstatic without reason, bursts of ecstasy within you without any reason. It's almost embarrassing. Now, the thought of pleasure just evaporates. Looking for a drink, looking for some kind of pleasurable thing just evaporates out of your mind because you're fully alive. When you're fully alive, pleasure disappears. When you're half dead, pleasure is an important thing.
You know Charles Darwin? You heard of Charles Darwin? 200 years ago born, but about 150 years ago, he said, "You were all monkeys." Not me, I'm not saying that. He said that. "You were all monkeys, your tail fell away, you became human." You know the story. When you were a monkey, you did not aspire to be human. Nature just pushed you on. You did not choose. But once you become human, if you want to evolve from here on, you have to consciously evolve, otherwise there is no other way. When I say you have to consciously evolve, what you call as human is not an established state, it's a flux. This moment, you can be godlike, next moment you can be a brute. You have seen with yourself, this moment you're wonderful, next moment you're nasty, next moment you're beautiful, next moment you're ugly. Is this not happening to you? So, a human is not a being, he's a becoming. He's an ongoing process. Nothing is fixed. You can be whichever way you want to be. This freedom that you have, that you're not fixed like every other creature on this planet, if you're aware, this is the greatest benediction because you can make yourself whatever you want. If you're unaware, this is the greatest curse. Humanity is right now suffering this freedom. Humanity is not suffering bondage as people are saying. Humanity is suffering its freedom. If your life was also fixed like every other creature, you would have gone about without any stress, you didn't have to do yoga, isn't it? Isn't it so? If your life was fixed like every other creature on this planet, you wouldn't be stressed. Only because it is not fixed, you can be anything you want, anything, just about anything can happen in your mind. This is why the stress, isn't it? See, suppose a tiger is born. A tiger is not sitting and worrying how to become a good tiger. Just get enough food, he will become a good tiger. He's not worried, will I become a good tiger? Will I end up as a house cat? No such problems. You're born as a human being, but still how many things you have to do to be a good human being, and still you don't know where you belong, isn't it? Only in comparison with somebody you can say, compared to this person, I'm little better. By yourself you don't know where you belong, isn't it so? Isn't it so? Because what is human is not an established state. It is a possibility. It is not a fixed state. If this possibility has to be made use of, there is a whole system of understanding that needs to happen. Understanding the mechanics of how this life functions and what we can do with it. This mechanics, this technology, this science, we are referring to as yoga.
You've heard of a word called Buddha? If I say